Luxair Jets is excited to announce the new, most convenient way to fly nonstop from Lexington to historic Saratoga Springs throughout the racing meet. We are now offering exclusive group packages on our luxurious private jets. Each package offers a once-in-a-lifetime experience that you can share with your friends, family, or business partners. Call for pricing and availability.
Time for the final Saratoga report of this week. I have my special guest here, Dave Grening, brought to you by Luxair Jets, by the way. And we're going to take a look back on what happened on Whitney Day. Quite a card, great weather, big crowd, and maybe the best handicap horse in the country. Now it's arguable. I still think Arrogate's the head of the division, but Gunrunner making a good case to move his name on top. Just get your thoughts on what we saw yesterday.
I thought he was tremendous yesterday, Mike. There was other speed in the race. We hadn't really seen him, duel with another horse and draw off and win convincingly like he did. There was a rabbit in the race, Cautious Giant, who acted like a rabbit for the first quarter, then acted like a hare for the second quarter when Paco Lopez took him in hand. And Florent Drew on Gunrunner said enough of this stuff. He just put him to the front and went on from there. The most interesting aspect of the race was probably the shoe gate, I guess we'll call it. You really need to look at the head-on replay of the Whitney down the backside when the shoe, you see this thing pop up in the air, 20 feet, 25 feet in the air, and it lands on Gunrunner's tail. And for the last half mile, he's got a shoe hanging from his tail. Barbara Livingston, our great producer here, has a great photo of it, as I'm sure people who are on DRF have seen it. And it's amazing that could even possibly happen. And the more to the story, the rest of the story, as they say, is Scott Blasi, the assistant. He didn't know that it wasn't Gunrunner's shoe. He didn't know what it was. He was just like, his groom handed him a shoe, and he just on the way back to the test barn, he flung it against the rail. He gets back to the test barn, and he gets all these pictures on his phone about, hey, did you see this? So he gets in his golf cart. He jumps back to see if he can find the shoe. Some guy has it, says, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And Scott says, how about I buy it back from you for $100? So now they have the shoe, and they have the win, and they have the best or second best handicap horse in the country, depending on how you look at it. It's like this, pulling a shoe. And now he's going to come back in the Woodward. Hopefully he runs well in the Woodward. Hopefully Arrogant bounces back in the Pacific Classic. And then you have your storyline and your showdown for the Horse of the Year in the Breeders' Cup Classic between Arrogant and Gunrunner.
And Keen Ice, I mean, no threat to Gunrunner at any point, but he ran his race again. I mean, he's as honest as they come. Obviously, he's doing well right now. What was Todd's thoughts on his performance?
He was pleased enough with it to, the horse stumbled at the start, but the mile and eighth is not his gig. If he has a gig, it's a mile and a quarter. And so he'll get that in the Jockey Club Gold Cup on October 7th at Belmont, leading to the Breeders' Cup. Todd will have a couple, though, for the Woodward. He'll run Neolithic, who won yesterday's last race, who was third in the Dubai World Cup, comes back at a race 7/8. Pretty game to get up there with the trip that he had in a distance that he doesn't like. And then today, on Sunday, Rally Cry wins the Aladar Stakes by 8 3/4 lengths. He'll probably come back to the Woodward. So Gunrunner will have some competition, but it's still Gunrunner's race to lose.
And the other Grade 1 race on Saturday was the Test, and what a performance by American Gal. She wowed us in the victory ride off a bad trip, and there was just a question whether she could travel back and forth from the West Coast and do it again, and she sure did, and it was a West Coast race as they ran 1-2, both American Gal and Fabian, for American Gal's ex-trainer, Bob Baffert.
Yeah, a tremendous performance by American Gal, really. I mean, it's nice to have that outside post so you can sit there and stalk, but then when you're four wide all the way around the racetrack, especially here, it's not easy. At Belmont, that's fine. At Saratoga, it's not so much. And she was game to keep going, and I thought she won pretty impressively. And this is a 3-year-old filly that's going to be serious competition in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. I know you've got some nice older filly and mares, Paula Silver Lining, Karina Mia may be bouncing back to that level. Finest City out there, who's going to try to train up to a repeat, to try and repeat in the Filly and Mare Sprint. But welcome American Gal to that upper echelon of the division.
And she's going to return to California. They're probably going to look for one prep race before the Breeders' Cup. Likely not coming back here, but we will hear from her, I'm sure, plenty between now and the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. A lot of turf action yesterday. Let's start with the Lure. Big upset there. Zenner. I think even trainer Kieran McLaughlin might have been a little surprised by that outcome.
Maybe, but this horse is in really good form right now. I think what he was surprised about is running in a $100,000 stake, listed stake, and finding graded stakes winners to the left, to the right, everywhere. But some of those horses, especially from Chad Brown's barn, were coming back off layoffs. So if you're ever going to catch a takeover target or a Camelot Kitten, yesterday was the time to catch them. I think this is a bit of an underrated horse. He's won 3 in a row, 4 out of his last 5. Joe Bravo seems to get along with him quite well. I'm not saying he's going to win the Breeders' Cup Mile, but he's going to get a chance to prove that he belongs in a race like that. He'll probably run back in the Bernard Baruch here on the closing day of the meet. I think it's a race Kieran has won before. A pretty nice underrated horse right there.
And Rajiv Miraz got off to a slow start at the meet, but he sure made up for it yesterday. What a ride on Thundering Sky. That was the difference. Thundering Sky up the rail, on leave, the 4-5 favorite down the middle of the track. Great effort by Rajiv.
Terrific ride to find the opening there and get her along the rail. Thundering Sky's been kind of a frustrating horse. You think she's got a chance at a couple races, she doesn't fire, then then you give up on her and she wins the Pebbles at 15-1 last year at Belmont. Same thing here. She's kind of been throwing a couple of frustrating performances, and then she gets a ride like that and she wins at 13-1. So next time she'll probably run in the Noble Damsel at Belmont Park. She'll probably be 5-2, and you won't be able to find her with a search warrant.
And trip handicappers, I guess, were all over Estrashada in the wire. She had a horrible trip in her first time here in New York. They brought her back again, trainer Mike Pipe. He said, I couldn't believe she was 9-1. She only got beat a length and a half, never got out at all, had a chance to run the last time. So a good $20 mutual for the trip handicap.
For the followers of it was a good enough race, I guess. Like you said, she was only beating a length and a half, but I guess people saw that she was 6th and didn't look past the 6th to see that she was only beating a length and a half. And they said, well, she's 6th. How's she going to bounce back against these? That race was a pretty wide open event, and she got a better trip this time, obviously, and got the job done.
And they'll be looking for races at 1.5 miles or further. Yesterday was 1 3/4, was it? Or was that 1.5 miles? Mile and a half. Well, they're going to be Mike Pipe, he said, nothing shorter than 1.5 miles for her. That's her game. She just keeps going and going and going. Well, that's a look back at the Whitney. Just real quick, Dave, let's look ahead to the upcoming week. What's the highlight for you here next week?
Well, we had the 4-star Dave, mile on the grass. I guess the interesting thing there could be Sassy Little Lila, who scratched out of the Della Rose on Saturday to maybe look at the 4-star Dave, potential lone speed. There's not a lot of stars in that race. You have Time Test, a bit of a frustrating horse for Chad Brown, and American Patriot coming back off the not-so-great performance at Royal Ascot. Then you have the 2-year-olds, the second round of the 2-year-old Philly Stakes on Saturday with the Adirondack, and then on Sunday with the special with the Colts. Copper Bullet, a horse a lot of people look back, talking about trip handicappers. If you watch his trip in the Bashford Manor, people will be all over him in next Sunday's Saratoga special for Steve Asmussen.
And I know one of the highlights coming up for both of us is Tuesday's a day off, so we will be off Tuesday. We'll be back here again Wednesday with the next Saratoga report, which will continue right through this terrific Saratoga 2017 meeting here on DRF.com.